switches off, but the intuition starts kicking in, and you start getting things. So like when I'm on the move, if I'm walking, um, driving the car, in the shower, um, um, the way I see it, it's like, because this is not so busy up here. It's quiet. You're not actively thinking. There's space that allows. There's like a psychological space which allows the deeper content, which is down here. It feels like it's down here, come up to the consciousness, if that makes sense. So like all this stuff's down here, and if I'm not actively engaging my brain, then there's like a clear flow for that to come up, just as it whenever it wants to passively, and then it'll come up to my, and then I'll just poke into my consciousness, and I'll have that wisdom or whatever it is, or that answer that I'm looking for. So like a lot of insights come when I'm in the middle of doing something, and then I need to run away and write it down because I know that I'll forget it. For some reason I've got a pretty bad memory. I don't know if that's an intuition thing or not. I don't know. It might be, but like the intuition comes and I'll have to capture it really quickly and go write it down or to remember it. And it can be a bit awkward if you're driving the car, and you try to like text it and all that. You shouldn't do that, but but I have to get it down somewhere. Otherwise, it will go and it won't come back. And also the sleeping thing. I get a lot of insights when I wake up. When you're in that groggy state of like sleep and fully awake, the first thing in the morning, I'll have a lot of insights and inspirational ideas about like things I'd like to study or things I'd like to do, and so that's introverted intuition and my experience of it. The next process, I hope that's the correct term for the psychological process. It probably isn't, knowing my memory. Is the auxiliary, which is extroverted feeling. Extroverted feeling. So, extroverted feeling, or FE for short, seeks social connections and creates harmonious interactions through polite, considerate, and appropriate behaviour. So it responds to the explicit and implicit wants of other people, and it may even create a conflict within the person's own needs and also their desire to meet the needs of other people. So there's this constant tug of war going on. I, as a person, I'm very aware of the moods and the emotional needs of other people around me, and I'm consciously always trying to create harmony in my environment, because whenever there's disharmony or there's tension in the air, it really, it doesn't make me upset and emotional kind of cry sense, but it creates that tension from the environment transfers onto the inside of me, and then I lose my peace and you just feel crap, and you can't relax, and so if I'm in like a really hectic environment, that intensity, that that frenetic energy transfers onto me, and then I lose my harmony on the inside, and that's a big thing for me. Harmony and having like peace, like internal harmony, is a big thing for me, and when I lose that, I find it hard to function. So, and also I notice a lot of the time, I notice when people in a social environment are the ones who are excluded or seem like they're being left out, I can pick up the vibes of, I can see the disconnection from the group, and I want to help them, become a part of the group, and that's an instinctive thing, and also in group dynamics, I can instinctively notice the negative influences which come through people, which having a negative effect on other people. So I can't think of a specific example, but say you're in a small group talking, and somebody says something, I'll like automatically know whether or not that thing said will have. Well, I won't automatically know all the time, but I'll have a sense that that might affect that person here, person X or person B, or person X, Y, and Z. If that what they said, oh, but this is hard to explain, but it's like they'll say something just random. A person will just say a random thing in a group, and I'll be aware of how that will affect other people in the group. And I'm usually right most of the time from experience. So that helps me help other people, but it also helps me. It also helps me relate to people socially, because I'm picking up. I'm good at creating rapport really quickly with others, and I'm creating a sense of trust. People often say that when they speak to me, they feel like they know me already, like they've known me in the past, and we're just meeting up again like old friends. And there's that trust there, and that's because I'm picking up their what they need emotionally to feel comfortable and to feel engaged with, and I instinctively know it's not so much a science; it's more of an art. You just feel it, and you can certain ways of doing things with one person won't necessarily work with another, but you'll just pick up on it and you just go with it. So that's extroverted feeling and how I engage with it. The next process is the tertiary, and this is introverted thinking, TI. So TI, above all else, is like usually seeks precision, being precise, such as the exact word or phrase to express an idea. It'll notice like the subtlest distinctions that define the essence of things. So like this is why it works so well with introverted intuition, is because introverted intuition is always seeking to conceptually capture the essence of something, to get to zoom in and hone into the essence of something as quickly as possible. Because I feel when I do that, when I home in the essence of something, I know what it is. I don't need to know all the extra details about it. If I know what it is at its core concept, that's enough for me. And where introverted thinking comes in is that it'll come in behind that, and it'll use logic and critical thinking to divide and define the essence of it. So the introverted intuition gives you the broad concept and you capture it like a snapshot, and then the introverted thinking will come in and then it'll start dividing it down like you would do with a scalpel, just delicately cutting the finer points of what that thing is. So you have a more nuanced view, a more nuanced understanding. And it also, and that goes along with analysing and classifying information. So it defines and puts into not always really rigid categories, but there is some sort of organisation that goes on in the mind, and it happens very fast. For me, it happens really fast. Most of the time, like in everyday sense, but there is other times when you use it in a more focused sense. Let's say you're studying or you're writing an essay, and you have to think very specifically about what you're saying and what you're thinking. Then it becomes more elaborate, and it helps. This is a big one for me. I know I'm using TI when introverted thinking when I begin to examine all sides of an issue. So the minute I start applying critical thinking, critical reason, and not just accepting things at face value, that's me. That's when I know I'm using introverted thinking. So it's looking for inconsistencies. It's looking to solve problems while minimizing effort and risk. So the most um, efficient way of doing something, the way that's going to reap the most reward, it has the less risk but the highest reward, sort of thing. That's how I use introverted thinking. Um, so I would say that I developed introverted thinking mostly. It's always been a process I've used, but I've really honed it and integrated it into who I am a lot more when I went to university. And my experience of it was that it provided a good balance between my intuition and my feeling. It helped to balance those those two really strong processes out. So um, if you can imagine, my intuition and feeling were like really strong, and they're kind of going all over the place up here. But as I developed my introverted thinking, it kind of had this kind of balancing effect on it. So there was more um, rationality, keeping this in line. Um, so it helped the critical thinking skills I learned at university, um, empowered my TI to better frame reality, if that makes sense, to frame reality in a more objective way. Almost in a sense that it's like, from what I've researched about cognitive behavioural therapy, and how you're always bringing things back to um, objective objective facts, objective reality, and holding them up against the subjective or the irrational beliefs. It's kind of like that. That's kind of the effect that my studies at university had on me, and my growth in critical thinking and developing my TI. Um, and again, even though introverted thinking is built upon logic, my introverted intuition works in tandem with it in order that it can be most effective. So I've met some people who are really strong in introverted thinking. They could really dissect any idea, concept, issue, the logic. You couldn't poke a stick through the logic. But there's like, for me, it feels to me, or it seems to me, that there's limitations to that. It's very effective, but when people use introverted thinking, and I can also see they're using that mixed with introverted intuition, there's more to it. There's more. I feel there's more. It's more powerful, and it enables it to have a broader scope, a more it's like introverted thinking provides you with precise knowledge. You're correct. You are you have the correct answer. Okay, you have knowledge, but when that's backed up by introverted intuition, it takes the knowledge, the correctness, the rightness of what you're saying and doing, and takes it to another level, and it becomes wisdom. Okay, it becomes wisdom, and that's the kind of way that I perceive those two functions working together, or those two processes. So, an analogy for would be like an archer firing an arrow, and the arrow is introverted thinking, which is able to penetrate issues in a very focused way to make subtle distinctions. It's very sharp, and it'll hit home really, really, really sharply. But it is the archer himself who fires the arrow, who stabilizes it, stabilizes the bow, stabilizes the arrow when he's pulling it back, and gives the arrow the direction. It gives it the focus, the control. It's the archer who provides the motion and the energy to the whole process, and that's very much how I feel introverted intuition empowers my introverted thinking when I use it. So they're a pretty good pair. um,